So yeah, along with gathering resources that I'm going to need for the build, I have also been clearing and leveling this ground here. This is the level that we'll build most of our structures on. I'll probably eliminate most of the hills in the area, bringing all of that stuff down to this level here. So let's dive into this build and see how far we can get, and maybe finish it, although that seems a little optimistic. But yeah, we'll find out what happens. So after lots of work and lots of concrete, there it is, just the beginning of our base. Since the time lapse, I did do just a couple of things off camera. I'll show you now. Well, first off, we've got some smelting going on so that I can cook things up nice and quick. Also, on the interior here, we are going to leave this roof as dirt, and I do have plans for that later. There's a lot of details we're going to add to this building yet to come. I just don't have all the materials yet. Here we've got a little mine entrance just to get things started, and I got just a few diamonds, which I have used over here to make our enchanting table. We don't have fortune available yet, but hopefully we can do that soon so we can really start increasing that diamond production. Now with our starting headquarters complete, let's talk about our first eco spin of this Let's Play series. So I told you we'll do something kind of futuristic or modern at the very least as we set up this factory. And I did mention that I want to take a little bit of like an eco-friendly spin. So along the way we're going to explore a few different eco-friendly options or environmentally friendly options that we have here in Minecraft. And to start things off, we have a lot of smelting that we're going to be doing in our future for all of our resources and whatnot. Everything we pull up from our mines. So, we're going to start off by solving our fuel situation today. Now, I don't want to spend forever on this, so let's do some fast facts. Here's a bunch of different fuel options in Minecraft. Let's start with coal. Real-world coal is not renewable, it takes millions of years to form, and burning it creates heavy emissions of CO2, sulfur, and nitrogen oxide, all of which are very harmful to the environment and bad for our health when exposed in large amounts. And in Minecraft, I just can't be bothered to go mining forever for this stuff. So, yeah, we're not going to do that for the season. Wood. Now, this is technically renewable. You just have to replant trees, like a lot. And it burns very quickly, so it's just not very efficient. So we're also not going to be going with that. It'll also, in Minecraft, burn through our tools very, very quickly. Charcoal, a little bit better than wood, produces less emissions, which is great. Of course, it doesn't really matter in Minecraft, but real world, it does produce less emissions, which is great. It does last longer than wood, but it does still require the cutting down of a lot of trees. And lastly, we are actually going to go with the dried kelp block for this playthrough as our main source of fuel. In Minecraft, I think a very underrated farm is the kelp farm. These are pretty easy to set up as long as you have some water nearby, and it provides a pretty efficient fuel source, and one that we can even automate completely later on, which is what we'll be doing. Now in the real world, kelp, which is actually a type of seaweed, can be grown in salt water, and it grows incredibly fast. The hardest part is just figuring out how to harvest it, but that's pretty easy here in Minecraft. When harvested, can be burned and broken down to a biofuel, which produces far less emissions in the entire process. It's kind of very new technology and currently not that efficient or effective, but it's something that we could look at transitioning to over time to reduce all the damage that we do to the environment. And so we're going to try to do the same thing here. Fortunately, in Minecraft, this is also a type of fuel that can be completely automated. So for now, we're going to create a kelp farm that we'll have to manage by hand, but eventually we'll put together one that can be completely automated, so we'll just have fuel producing all the time while we're around our base. And the most important thing is that we can be happy about using a fuel source which is much less damaging to our environment. Hooray! Because of course we want all of this natural beauty to last for generations and generations. So it's our duty, to look for better ways to continue taking care of it. So now, with that little info session out of the way, let's go plant ourselves a little kelp farm. I'll show you how I do this. And then hopefully we won't need any of these other very polluting sources, and in the case of wood especially, difficult to get. So here we are out by the riverbed and by some of our farms for sugarcane, potatoes, wheat, carrots, etc. And all we're going to do is I've scouted out a couple of spots where we've got a nice kind of open area down in the river. And we're just going to swim on down. I've got some kelp here that I gathered up from the ocean previously. And we've got kind of a nice flat level zone, and we're just going to fill this in with some little kelp. I don't know what you call these. Sproutlings, I suppose. Now, the only annoying thing is we will have to come up for air for now. And the collection out here is a little bit difficult, but much easier than burning through a bunch of tools to collect wood, I think. Oh, hi. A wandering trader's also checking out this little kelp farm. And I just like to plant everything at the same level, and you'll see why when we get to the harvesting bit later. Now, the other thing about this is we do need a lot of kelp, and fortunately that's pretty easy to do. But it is going to take tons of it to be a really consistent fuel source. And it's also very nice to automate this so that we don't have to go down and collect this all the time. Kelp can be planted on any block, any surface that is not glass. It needs to be a non-transparent surface. So dirt, sand, clay, even stone and things will work. And you can see it grows very, very fast. We've already got a couple sprouting up here. So that's a good size to start with. We're going to let that grow a little, and we're going to go plant one other section. And if I remember correctly, there's a nice level little area over here as well. Yes, there it is. This one's actually quite a bit bigger. And down we go. Alright, and that's all we have for now, but we'll add to it as we collect some of this kelp. Now, this stuff grows so fast, we could probably go get a decent amount already from the first patch that we planted. And I'll show you exactly how we're going to collect this over time. So this, normally I would let it go longer, but just so you can see, all I'm going to do is take my boat out, we're going to dive down, stand at the bottom, and we'll start just chopping anything that's grown above the first level. Right, all it takes is the punch of the hand, and then the kelp itself floats to the surface, so we don't have to stay down here. Right, we just go back to our boat. We'll just zoom over all of this kelp, and look at that. I planted everything I had, and just in that short amount of time, we've got, what, over half a stack that's already grown. Look at that. 39 kelp, I mean, that was minutes. And we'll take this over and expand this second plot over here. And I am now officially a kelp farmer. Alright, and there we go. That's a pretty good size little kelp farming plot there. It's going to work just like any of the farms that we would build on land, whether it's sugarcane, wheat, carrots, potatoes, etc. We're just going to, as we harvest, we'll take all of the excess and we will keep planting it until we've got a good amount here. The nice thing about this is you don't have to cut it all the way down. If you break the second level, everything above it will break off and float to the top. So since a lot of this has already grown to stage 2, 3, or 4, let's go ahead and do a quick little harvest just so you can see exactly how this is going to work. So I'm going to go down. We'll float down until we're standing on the level. That way we can just look forward, kind of turn around, and break everything here. Every once in a while we'll have to go up for air. But as you can see already, there is a ton of kelp floating around. Now we're going to go break everything first. That's usually what I like to do. And then we'll go around the top and pick it all up. Right, and this plot is pretty big. It will take me about two breaths to come down here and break everything. Some of it's already starting to grow again. See how fast that is? And then we just wait for it to float to the top. We'll come over to our boat here. We can speed along and pick it all up. And the beautiful part is we don't have to replant anything, just like those other farms, where you'd have to plant the seeds again, or plant the carrots or potatoes again. Or beetroot seeds, if anybody actually uses beetroots. So we'll just come break this every once in a while. Oh, I missed some. And we'll get hundreds of kelp. Look at that. 2 and a little bit stacks of kelp. I had almost nothing on me when I started. And that was only a little growth because it was just the time that it took me to actually plant all that. Now let's go check our first one that's been growing for a while. And this stuff's starting to get pretty tall, right? So we can just drop back down and we'll break it all. This plot is a little smaller. I can break it all in one breath, which is great. Go back to my boat because that's just faster. And collect all the kelp as it floats to the top. So let's pretend I don't already have some kelp blocks, just to see how I got this started from the beginning. We would have to use coal or wood or charcoal or something that can burn, just to get the whole process started. So I've got a bunch of kelp here. Here's my wall of furnaces. Let's go ahead and grab whatever previous unclean fuel source we were using before. That's fine. That's fine. You know, you have to start somewhere. We do need power. And we're just going to drop, we'll say, like 12 coal in here. We'll do another 12 there. And we'll just pop in a bunch of kelp. And it'll start burning away. Now, in the output here, you're going to see that we're going to get this dried kelp. Alright, dry kelp. And we're going to take that, we're going to collect a bunch of it. I already have some from a run previously. And we're just going to spread it around, fill every box, and you'll get this dried kelp block. We'll collect that, and we have 7, and this is actually a very efficient, pretty long-lasting fuel source that we can use in our furnaces. So now from here, let's get another couple furnaces running, but we're going to use our dried kelp block as the fuel. And this entire process will produce more dried kelp blocks than it needs to cook the kelp into dried kelp, enough to make another dried kelp block. So essentially we have a loop that is net positive for fuel. We have to start with something else, but once you get the kelp blocks, you can use it to burn down the kelp, which will give you dried kelp for more kelp blocks, and you'll use those again to burn more kelp, but you'll also get enough that you can use it to burn other things. And that is why, later on, we can use this as a completely automated process. We can have machines collect the kelp. We can drop it right into furnaces where it will be turned into dried kelp, and then we just have to make the dried kelp blocks and add them to massive chests, which will fuel the furnaces as well. And they'll produce tons and tons of fuel that we'll be able to use throughout our entire Let's Play series. So, we won't really be needing coal or charcoal or wood or lava buckets or anything else that you can use to fuel furnaces anymore. We should be good with the dried kelp blocks from here on out. For now, we'll have to collect them by hand, but eventually we won't have to lift a finger. It'll be great. So the next step is to use a couple technical blocks here. I'm going to add a couple hoppers so that we can add lots of kelp, and I don't have to come back for long periods of time, and these furnaces will just keep chugging along and producing more dried kelp for us. Now, I only have enough iron for these 2 hoppers. I'm actually all out of iron now. I've got a couple pieces. We're going to have to do some mining soon. But now I can just load this up with kelp. And as soon as this is done cooking, well, actually, now there's room for it, so this is just filtering right in, which is great. Later on, I could have this drop into a chest, but for now, I actually want to... I need the experience. I'm only level 18. So I'm just going to collect everything from these furnaces as they fill up. Alright, and that's enough talking about kelp for today. Just kidding! One last kelp fact. If you think it's crazy how fast kelp grows in Minecraft, in the real world, it can actually grow up to 18 inches per day. That's over a foot per day. Yes, in a week you could have kelp that is 10 feet tall if growing in ideal circumstances. And that is why it could become such a reliable source of fuel. Alright, now we're done talking about kelp. This has been Dissonance Gaming. Thank you very much for joining. I'm so excited to have our base sort of up and running and functioning. Got a little mine going, and now our kelp farms as well to fuel us for the future. And yeah, if you're enjoying your time here, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can see more of the content, and I'll see you, hopefully, in the next one. Bye-bye. Except it's growing so fast I can actually collect it again.